that this man is considered the greatest of all time whenever it comes to college football coaching.
Hell yeah.
7-time national champion, fresh off a big-time signing day, recruiting the next class of future NFLers that will roll through this man's program. The head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Nick Saban.
Yeah, coach!
How are we, Coach?
How you doing, man? Doing great.
Hey, how is signing day? That's got to be a lot of pressure. We saw Ryan Day find out live while he was at a press conference that Smith, Jeremiah, the
wide receiver, number one
wide receiver, actually committed to Ohio State. And he fainted almost. He's like, oh, because I guess it was like a close call. Signing day always high pressure. Or what is signing day for you, and what has it been over the years? Another great class comes in.
Yeah, well, it is a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Of course, we're on the practice field half the day, while signing day is going on. We're planning for a game. We're planning for practice. So, you're spending time recruiting, but it's you got a lot of balls in the air at this time. I think every college coach would tell you this 2-week period where you're trying to get ready for a game, where you're trying to finish recruiting, where you got signing day coming up, is a really, really difficult time to manage in terms of where are you going to invest the most time. So, once you start practicing, it's a little more difficult, a little more challenging to stay with the recruiting aspects of it. But we're really happy with the class that we got. We're pleased with the guys that we got. They're the right kind of people. They're the right kind of guys. Hopefully we can add a few more good players down the road, and we'll just keep working on it.
All right, well, congrats on another great class. Let's talk about the calendar year for college football. So next year, 12-team playoff, obviously, so that's going to cut into this time as well. So there's going to be more coaches who have earned their way into practicing while the signing period is happening. Do you think there's going to come a time where this is going to change, potentially, to make people's lives make more sense? Because you should be focused. You've earned your way into the college football playoff. But then, one of the most important parts of college football is recruiting and signing your next class. And now you kind of are getting punished by what you guys have earned. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but that's just part of the job, or how do we change that?
I think that, most of us realized that how many years ago it was, 5-6 years ago, where we decided to have an early signing date. And there are benefits to that, and there are benefits to the players. But because we have an early signing date, it really kind of became the signing date probably for about 90% of the players who are getting recruited. And then the next phase of that was the recruiting calendar gets moved up, where you can have visits in the summertime and all that type of stuff, which is another thing that's probably good. But I think the most difficult part of that is you got all this stuff coming together at once in terms of, practice, preparation for a bowl game or a playoff game, as well as a signing date. And I don't really have a solution that would say what would make it better. Taking away the early signing date, that obviously would clear up the preparation for the games. Moving the signing date up further would impact high school players probably. I mean, if I was a high school coach, I wouldn't want a player on my team to be able to sign before he finished playing for me, because you may have some of that we have in college, where a player says, well, I'm not going to play in the bowl game because I'm going to get ready for the NFL. Well, I'm not going to really play my high school season because I already have a college scholarship. So, there's a lot of pros and cons to all this. I think it is what it is, and we all have to live with it. I'm not complaining about it.
No. It was me.
Difficult.
Yeah, it was me complaining for you just because it doesn't seem to make sense. Like in the NFL, for instance, they have these head coaching interviews that take place, and normally it's the coordinators for the teams that are in AFC Championship, NFC Championship, or the Super Bowl, and this is the biggest game of their lives, potentially, and they've earned the head coaching interviews. But for Monday, Tuesday of the week of the Super Bowl, these guys have to go interview because they might not get the job. It's like, that makes no sense. Like, that shouldn't be how it is, especially for people that are having success. So it's me bitching, not you. Just want to make sure that is very, very clear. Now, yeah, all right, cool, I got you. Yeah. So now with the transfer portal also happening, and now the seniors signing early and committing late, it's like, At what point do you have to figure out, and I know you said you have a roster manager or something like a general manager down there, but at what point do you all right, we'll use 60% of our scholarships on high school guys, we'll use 40% on transfer portal, because we're seeing Prime got 5 guys out of high school and then I think 10 or 11 out of the transfer portal at the same time. How do you decide that? Do you have to, what is the weighing of the options there, especially at this specific time with it all coming together at the same time?
Right. Well, we don't really have a specific number on it. Basically, we look at the transfer portal a lot like free agency, which means that if we have a need on our team, because if a guy's going to transfer, he probably needs to play. He's looking for a place to play. So it's important for him to be able to play. It's important for you to be able to need him to play. So we look at the transfer portal like, hey, if we're missing maybe a left tackle, or we're missing a linebacker on defense, whatever the position is, we're really searching to try to complement our roster, with guys that we could get from the transfer portal. So that's kind of how we've approached it, and we end up with 4 or 5 guys. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, J-Mo Williams, all those guys were guys that made significant impacts that came from, the transfer portal. So that's been very helpful to us.
That's like the new norm. It feels like how everybody's treating it. Some teams are building directly through that. That happens in the NFL as well with free agency. Go with the vets, the established people. But in college now, there's a whole new business world that gets involved. I don't know how you guys are handling it all. Hey, but good work over there.
Yeah.
Good work over there. 17 to 20-year-olds deciding a lot of futures. One last question here on recruiting from Ty.
Yeah, Coach, a lot of what we see now, is like a kid will have a verbal commitment pretty early, and then as we lead up to signing day, there's all this talk about him flipping his decision from one place to another. Obviously, you guys, with a lot of your guys, are battling between a lot of these other blue bloods in college football. How do you kind of decide and manage trying to flip a kid when hey, this kid is still interested? We can maybe put a little pressure on him to see if we can get him to come, or knowing when it's time to just kind of call it quits and hey, this kid is not going to be committing to Alabama. He's going to go somewhere else. How do you manage that aspect of it?
Yeah, well, I think that it's a very good question. I think there's one sort of factor involved in recruiting now that did not used to be involved in recruiting. And that's the whole concept of I don't want to say it's pay for play, but name, image, and likeness has turned into something very similar to that. So what you have in some cases is you have players who are looking to create value for their future. They're looking to go to a program where they can have a good quality of life, but at the same time, their personal development, their academic development, their career development on and off the field are all things that are most important to them and their family. And then you have some people that are just looking for, where can I make the best deal? And, sometimes those factors change, toward the end. And you have to be aware of, which guys are solid, which guys are coming here for the reasons that you really recruited them, which was to create value for their future and try to allow them to have a really good quality of life while they're doing that. But at the same time, knowing that there's guys out there that are looking and searching for, where can I make the best deal? So, and you kind of got to try to recruit enough guys on the board that are good players that they can complement each one of these types of guys that are making these decisions. So there's a few more factors involved in where guys go to school now than there used to be.
Yeah, the pay for play thing is with the collectives and how, because they're throwing out money, how much money people are getting paid and made. And I'm texting people that potentially would know, agents and such. I'm like, are these real numbers? Everything's inflated that you're seeing right now. Every number's being inflated by the agents. They're the ones putting it out there to put leverage on other people to potentially make more money. So nobody knows what's real and what isn't real. It's a wild transition phase right now that's happening in college. Is that an accurate depiction there of the situation, Coach?
That is accurate. I like the way you say things, so I don't have to say them. It is.
I got you, Coach.